Just did it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Okay. So what that's going to look like for today is we're just going to do a quick check-in from last week's homework. I'm going to go over what expectations are, going to talk a little bit about human connectedness, and then I have a personality quiz and a feelings wheel activity for us to do at the end. So like I said, just wanted to check in and see how our homework went last week. We talked about time management and really just kind of encouraged you to think about your routines, think about modifying them or maybe creating a new one. Thinking about your non-essential tasks, those things that are kind of time wasters, replacing those with something new. And then if you were able to identify any available time. So if anybody would like to share, go ahead and drop that in the chat. I'll wait just a moment. It's okay if not also, but just wanted to reach out and see if anyone was interested in sharing. All right, well, I don't see anyone typing, and again, that's okay, and it could be because our sessions are recorded. Just wanted to try to make it a little interactive for us, but no worries in that regard. So before we talk about expectations, let's kind of define what they are. So they're assumptions, beliefs, or standards we set regarding how people, situations, or outcomes should develop in our minds, right? Mental standards for how we believe the world should work. And expectations, whether explicit or implicit, explicit meaning they're clearly communicated, implicit meaning they're assumed without being stated, have a big impact on how we behave, interact with others, and feel. So really that is just what those expectations are, right? What we expect others or even ourselves to do. We expect the world to be a certain way. We expect things to be in order when we go to the grocery store as far as people behaving and where things are. So we have all of these expectations of ourselves and the world around us, really. So these are the types of expectations. So again, with ourself, an example would be expecting yourself to exercise regularly or maintain a positive attitude during challenging times. So think about what you have, what expectations you have for yourself in the professional world, in your world at home, as a wife or a husband or a partner, um, as a parent, as a grandparent, as a neighbor. What expectations do you have of yourself? And just take some notes if you want to. We have our interpersonal expectations where we're expecting clear communication from others, assuming loved ones will be there for us during difficult times. And with these expectations, if people don't meet what we are thinking they should, how they should act, how they should behave, we become disappointed, right? And so having our expectations are good as far as setting those boundaries, which we'll talk about more next week in communication, but really kind of creating our world around us, but it can cause some displeasant feelings, right? We can be disappointed. We can get frustrated if these expectations in any of these areas don't pan out to what we think they are. Social expectations are expecting people to be polite and respectful in public interactions, expecting others to be on time. We've probably all been in meetings where we haven't been able to get started yet because the main person isn't there, or, traffic, somebody here in Michigan anyways, I'm assuming it's the same over in Wisconsin, the left lane is the fast lane. Well, when we have the people in the slower drivers in the left lane, and we can't go as fast as we would like, that can be frustrating. Professional expectations, expecting others to meet deadlines, contributing ideas, conversations during those meetings. And again, you're probably thinking of different examples in each of these areas that you've had personally, because when I was putting this together, I sure did. And then our situational expectations, where we're expecting an event or a party to start on time again, assuming a flight will depart as scheduled, those types of things. And some of these things we don't really have control over. I mean, with the flights, we want to be safe when we're up in the air. So if they delay a flight for me, okay, I'm not going to be as frustrated as maybe I would as the slow driver in the left lane kind of a thing. But the big thing is people acting how we think they should act. We should be on time if we can control that. Of course, there's always those outlying circumstances with all of these situations, right? And we don't always know that. We don't know why a person is late necessarily. And so, how do you react to that? We talked last week about, being able to change our reactions and not because we can't control other people. So, think about those types of things and how you react when others don't meet your expectations. And if you feel like you're frustrated or disappointed, take it a step further to think about why. Even okay, so you do know the reason why they were late. Why does that bother you so much? And think about what you can do to try not to let those feelings bog you down. So, tips for setting self expectations. So, determine expectations early on. This is going to promote accountability. It's going to establish the tone for your creative pursuits and pace. So, you can pause for a moment and consider your life goals and desires and thinking about basing your expectations on yourself or your life goals. So, what does that look like for you? Again, take some notes if anything is resonating with you, go back, give it a little more thought, but determine your expectations, your cores, your values, your goals, and what you expect from yourself. And learn to let go. This is a tough one for a lot of us. We might feel bad if you don't live up to your expectations. And again, I've given the analogy, life can throw us fastballs sometimes. I mean, it's peaks and valleys sometimes. When it rains, it pours. A lot of things we don't have that control over, so we just have to give ourselves a little bit of grace. Don't disregard your feelings in order to let these things go. It just means accepting your emotions and moving on and trying to get over what happened, right? Letting go of those expectations for other people and situations is another thing, as I had mentioned. And reminding ourselves that, again, we don't have control over what other people do or say. We only have control over how we react and how we perceive things. And that, again, can help with those disappointing and frustrating feelings. It can help soften those a little bit if we're able to learn to let go. If we're not living up to our own expectations, if we didn't meet that one goal, sit down, take a pause, reevaluate why. Okay, we know why now. Here was the barrier. Now we're going to move forward, reestablish the goal, and press on. Practicing positive self-talk. So when you're establishing expectations for yourself, you really want to think about the way that you speak to yourself. So do you notice with your internal thoughts, are they positive thoughts? Are they more on the negative side? Because when we have our self-talk in a negative manner, it could make it more difficult for us to achieve our objectives and our goals, right? And that makes sense. We're not being our own supporter. And really our thoughts have the power to uplift us or to kind of depress us. And so if you engage in self-defeating thoughts, try changing your perspective and the rewording the negative to a more positive. Yeah, I think I shared with you guys in week one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. Our minds believe what we tell it. So give yourself those accolades, give yourself those positive affirmations in the morning, whatever works for you. If you notice that you are, a little more down on yourself one day, try to just flip it around and think of talking to yourself as you would to a child, one of your kids, your partner or spouse, your parents, your sibling, if they were having a hard time. Try to reverse that and give yourself that same grace of being supportive of yourself. And a lot of these don't come easy or naturally for some of us, and that's okay. This is about awareness, and this is about practicing and trying to just improve a little bit at a time, right? Give yourself time and grace. So, it's good to have those deadlines, like I mentioned, but again, life happens, setbacks happen. So we might not be able to accomplish the goal within that time frame. Again, we go back up to trying to let it go, giving ourselves that grace. Choosing to push back deadlines or extending your time frame can be beneficial. At work, that's a whole nother nature of the beast. But with your personal goals, again, reevaluate. Why didn't you meet those? Did somebody get sick? Did, you have extra bills to pay? Whatever that looks like for you, just sit down and reevaluate, take that pause, and really try to refocus. Were your expectations or your goals realistic? Or were they kind of out of your stretch, out of your means? And sometimes it's great to have those types of goals, but unrealistic goals aren't going to necessarily get us that closer to it anyway. So having those small, attainable, SMART goals that we had talked about will just help you evolve with your expectations. And then focusing on what you have accomplished. So again, how do you celebrate your small wins? How do you celebrate your successes? That was one of the homework assignments that I tasked you with, I think last week or the week before. If you do feel frustrated with yourself, those can lead to unrealistic expectations. And so what do we do when that happens? Think about what we've accomplished. It can help keep things into perspective. Sometimes when we feel down and have those off days, it's sometimes easier to focus on the negative than the positive. And sometimes it takes a lot of work when we're feeling down or having an off day to focus on the positive. But we are able to do that if we are willing to do that. And again, it takes work. I mean, I've said before, sometimes when I am grumpy for really no reason, it's so much easier to be grumpy. And it's not fun to be grumpy, but really trying to pull yourself out of it. What do you do to pull yourself out if you're having an off day, or if you just feel like being grumpy, you don't want to talk to anybody for the day? That's not realistic for most of us at work, right? We've got to pull through it at least to some extent. But what can you do to kind of pull yourself through that? Again, it might take a little effort, it might take a little work. Really thinking about the positive things is going to help with that. It's going to help flip that situation and your emotions and how you're feeling. Concentrating on being grateful for what you already have, especially when you're setting yourself expectations, considering the things that you love instead of the things you wish you had, right? So again, having those goals in our wish list is a great thing. It gives us something to work towards if they're realistic goals, right? The gratitude, focusing on the good things that are around us. And I'm not sure if I shared this with you guys in week 1. We'll talk a little bit more about it in our journaling course in week 6, but for gratitude, if we're able to write down 3 things that we're grateful for 21 days in a row, our brains actually start to rewire themselves to look for the positive around us. So that could be something that you could task yourself with for the next 21 days and see if that makes a difference to you. I love sharing that, and apologies if it's a duplicate, but I don't think we had quite as many people on week 1 as we do today. So really give that some thought, and that helps with our expectations. Thinking about your well-being, that might be disruptive if we only concentrate on what we desire and lose sight of the positive aspects of our life. So, being happy with the weight that you're at right now, working towards a goal weight, being happy with the food that you have in your refrigerator right now. Maybe it's not all organic or how you envision it to be, but being thankful and grateful that we do have that food to eat. So again, really thinking about all the aspects of our lives and seeing where you can really be appreciative, focusing on that. And then building confidence. So having that self-confidence, this just kind of goes hand in hand with that positive self-talk. But when we have some self-confidence, that can help us to overcome obstacles in a constructive way, right? And that makes sense. We have the motivation, we've done it before. We have the confidence, we know we can do this. We know we can make it through this off day. We know we can make it through the meeting tomorrow that we're not necessarily looking forward to. But again, flipping the narrative, like I said in weeks past, how can you make that a positive, something to look forward to? What can you contribute and look forward to that meeting that you could focus on that positive? And really, as you become aware of your worth and potential, it will assist you in establishing reasonable expectations. When we're feeling confident, we're more likely to ask for what we want and need. And additionally, it can assist us in pursuing our interests and achieving our life goals. So having that confidence, building that confidence up, and we can do that by setting those small, realistic, attainable, SMART goals, right? And accomplishing those. All the goals that we accomplish, we're just going to get one step closer, creep up the self-confidence scale just a little bit at a time. So would encourage you to do that. So this is a big thing, right, with self expectations and expectations of others. So we see here in the green the things that we can control. And I've talked about this a little bit, but we can control our own words, our own attitude, our own body language, our reactions, our feelings, our mistakes, our ideas, our actions, our decisions, and our effort. We directly have control over each of those things in that green circle. Again, we might not always want to be our best selves for an off day. It happens. But we do have the ability to control that and change that if we wanted to. The things that we can't control in the blue and white bubbles are just that, other people's words, other people's attitudes, other people's body language, other people's reactions. And I remember for my first professional job, once I graduated from college, I had to do a couple temporary things before I could find what I went to school for. But when I got that job, I was just thrilled, of course, right? And I had a counterpart where she was a nurse. She did the nursing side of health and wellness, and I did the community side for outreach and public health type of deal. And every morning when I walked in, because we shared a little office, I would say, "Good morning, Sue. How are you?" She would ignore me, like, wouldn't even acknowledge me. And I cannot even tell you how bad that bothered me because one, I'm a young professional. I, don't have the experience of being in the real world, really. And but I knew that that wasn't very nice, and it just bothered me. So after a while, I really had to check in with myself and be like, okay, I'll still say good morning, but you're going to expect not to get the response back. And I still don't understand because we had a great relationship. Maybe, and obviously she just was not a morning person. But that for a long time bothered me. Nothing that I could do about it. I could have had the conversation with her, but I was too mild and timid. Again, I was just starting out. I didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. But thinking about that, and I probably spent too much wasted energy trying to figure out why she was not saying good morning to me when really it probably didn't even have anything to do with me at all, right? It was probably something that she was going through. But again, we know that we can't control other people in any regard. So again, just when you're kind of having those situations, when you're kind of just people are irritating to you, okay, they're going to be like that anyways. Maybe they're having an off day. Control you, put on a song, go for a walk, try to debrief, try to de-stress, and not let those feelings and energy drag you down with things that we can't control. And we can, of course, always have those conversations. So I would encourage you to do that for sure, if you're comfortable with that, because sometimes that can lead to their behavior change. But again, they have to make that decision to do so if that's important to them. So I just really wanted to talk a couple of minutes about social connection because we are talking about expectations of others. And we are in society, we are around other people. And I just really wanted to reinforce the impact of the connection with others. And so social isolation really carries a risk with it, as you can see here. So isolating yourself, and this is for long term, right? This isn't for, I need to go take a break. I need to just, sit in my house for a few hours, maybe for the weekend and not connect. This is for, over a long term. Everybody deserves a break. But you can see here the health risks that social isolation may include if we don't get out and talk with other people, if we don't have that connection with others. So, heart disease and stroke, and this is all research proven and based, depression or anxiety, addiction, self harm or suicidal ideation, dementia, early death. So, really putting ourselves around people that are positive, right? We want our village to be as positive as possible because behavior is also contagious, right? Thinking about, I was probably grumpy when Sue didn't say good morning to me because what the heck? Behavior is contagious. And again, sometimes it takes a lot of effort for us to get past that, and it's worth it, but sometimes it does take that effort. But health benefits from connection may include prevention of chronic disease and improved mental health, promotion of healthy behaviors and a healthier weight, reduction of physical and emotional risks. And you think about even people at work, and hopefully smoking isn't as prevalent as it used to be. I'm work from home, so I'm not sure in that regard. But I remember when I was working in the office, you always had a smoking buddy. You never saw anybody smoking by themselves, right? Oh, okay, it's time to go grab a smoke and we're going to go outside and chat for a little bit. And there would be the nurses that would joke about saying, well, I'm going to become a smoker because they get way more breaks than we do. And, at the time, it was true. I mean, they went out about every hour for about 10 minutes. Thinking about the people that walk in your office on a more positive note. That's encouraging. That's motivational. Okay, I've been thinking about walking. Maybe I can ask them to go for a walk, or maybe I want to go for a walk on my own, kind of a thing. And then going on with that, we have the number of and variety of relationships that you have. So like I mentioned, it depends on the type of people that you are around in your village, who you are surrounding yourself with. Some examples of when you need emotional support, maybe when you're feeling down or lonely, having those people kind of on speed dial, if you will, knowing who you can go and talk to. But having those meaningful and regular social exchanges, a sense of support and belonging, having all of these are great benefits from having that social connectedness. Makes us feel valued and appreciated. Having at least one person to turn to for support, and having that safe place together, right? Knowing that we all kind of are in it together. We're all on the same page. We all work in the same department. We understand when times and trials come out, and we're able to celebrate when things are great too. So just would really encourage you, if you don't have, a village, where can you go in a club, or maybe church, or the kids' sporting events, or whatever that looks like for you, something that you've been thinking about wanting to try as far as a hobby goes, and taking a class kind of a thing. Okay, so this is just a quick little quiz, a personality quiz, because this all goes into how, if a type A person, we've heard of type A people, and I'm not going to go into all the types of personalities because that literally is another course all within itself. But this will give you a little bit of an idea of the type of person you are. And I've got the results on the next page. So let's go ahead and just spend a couple of minutes here for you to answer these questions. And so when you're done with these questions, you're just going to add up how many A's, B's, C's, or D's that you have and look at the majority. And that's what our results are going to imply. I'll give you folks just a few more seconds here. All right. If anybody needs any extra time, I can always go back to this, but I will be sending it out to Annie as well to post with this recording, so you can always go back to it. And again, this is just a fun awareness tool. This is not diagnosing you into anything, any type of personality. It was 5 questions. There are a lot more thorough personality quizzes out there that you can take. I tried to get a few on here for us to go through and for references and resources, but they all cost money. When you can take the quiz, but then you have to pay to get the results. So you can just Google or search up personality quizzes and see if that's something you wanted more information on. So mostly A's, you're analytical and thoughtful. You enjoy deep thinking and prefer to have a clear plan before taking action. You value knowledge and tend to be detail oriented. Mostly B's, you are social and empathetic. You thrive in social settings and you value your relationships highly. You're a great listener and often provide support to those around you. Mostly C's are adventurous and energetic. You love exploring new places and trying new things. You're spontaneous and enjoy living in the moment. And mostly D's, you're creative and supportive. You have a knack for thinking outside the box and helping others. You find joy in creative pursuits and making a positive impact. So wondering, if that was kind of a reflection of your personality for those 5 questions. So one more mindful activity that we're going to do today, and this is the feelings wheel. And this is a reflective meditation. And again, I know it's probably a little bit difficult to see. I can't blow it up anymore. But when you have it on your own screen, if you decide to go back to this, you can see the feelings a bit more. But we're going to take just a couple of minutes here and think about what happened today or in the recent past when you had a big feeling related to another person. Reflect on that word on the feelings wheel. So if you wanted to look in the middle here where, let's see if I get my cursor. So we have surprised, feeling bad, fearful, angry, disgusted, sad, or happy. You can see how these go into more of the words that support the main words here. So, but anyways, go ahead and think of that time. Reflect on whatever word resonates with that situation for you. And then just breathe and focus on how that incident made you feel. If the interaction was negative, breathe out any uncomfortable feelings. And if the interaction was positive, breathe in the uplifting energy. And let's go ahead and do that for a minute. I'll set my timer and then we'll wrap up. All right, awesome. So again, you can use this tool in those types of situations where you can just sit, reflect, and breathe, trying to get rid of those negative feelings and focusing on the positive ones. So the homework for this next week is quite similar to that feelings wheel, but think of a situation specifically that made you upset, mad, angry, or sad. And think about if you reacted to the actions and the words of someone else. And if so, how would you change your reaction to a similar situation next time? So I would just encourage you to think about that. Nothing that you have to obviously bring to the next week's class, but again, those expectations, did you expect them to react a different way? Did you expect yourself to react a different way? So, all right. Well, as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Thank you for joining. Next week, we are talking about communication and boundaries. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Have a great week.